Alright, welcome to episode 33 of What If Civilization Started Over. I said I was going to look up what happened in the last episode, and then I didn't. Anyway, I know Sweden got attacked, and they've been partitioned between Denmark, the Finnish Empire, and Lapland. Also, I think I'm even worse. I'm just still ill. This is great. I love how this is going. We also saw more colonization, with the Danes expanding their colonies up north, and possibly more stuff down here. We saw expansion of that bluish country, lots of expansion in general, like this country is now massive. You expanded down here, and the other main thing was a war. What is going on there? Hey, what is that about? Thank you. And the main thing was a war between Karnataka and the Sri Lankan country, and now Karnataka is absolutely massive. So we might go to them in this episode, but there's one big thing I want to do today, so that's the priority. First off, though, let's go to this country. This greenish country, they've not really done a whole lot. They got attacked by the bluish country like a while ago, which caused the downfall of Caucasia from the top 10 to somewhere in the top 20, but they're not even that relevant anymore. So this greenish country will be expanding their borders northwards in an attempt to make them actually look good again. So they do that. Pretty nice. Alright, I guess. Also, let's just change this bit because I don't like how it looks that much. And does that look okay? No, it's not really, but we're gonna deal with it. That's fun. Alright, cool. Going from them then, let's go over here to Ireland. Not much happens in Ireland, but the yellow... Is this Connaught? Connaught? Oh my god, not 40. Holy. Not 45. Connaught. I didn't really look up how to pronounce that, but it's kind of, I think that's the right area. They will be attacking another country in Ireland, and it will of course be their ultimate rival in the Orange country. So they have two cities, one being their capital, and this war is not very tricky. Now Connaught isn't exactly a powerful country. They didn't gain much from Scotland, and they've only got 3 cities in their land. They should have got some cities from Scotland. However, they have a lot more population from this country than this country, and they steamroll them, taking over their capital city. Boom, demoted. Flip. There we go. And fully annexed into our newly developing sort of Irish Empire. Pretty cool, pretty cool. Yeah, I like it. The French are also apparently still here in Ireland. Get them out. Also, you can take over. Like when there's random islands that nobody owns, just know that they're meant to own them. The country near them is meant to own these islands. Just hope you realize that. Anyway, we can do some colonization as well. I'm not going to do too much in today's episode, but a little bit. Probably mostly the Danes, because the Danes love their colonization. They're pretty good at it. So we see Denmark expanding this colony, which is their newest one, up here in the north, as they will head down the northern area and also down this coast on the Strait of Greenland. This is the Strait of Denmark, which I think is funny, but makes sense if you think about it. Labrador Sea. Is that? I don't know. I am spouting random things for no reason. Yeah, they're also going to take over all these stupid islands as well. Don't think anyone's ever going to live on them, but there you go. So they expand that colony. Do we give them any more stuff? We don't really need to, but they can have that island. There you go, Denmark. They also own all those stupid islands over there. I just cannot be bothered to colour them in, because I'm mean like that. Let's give them some more central stuff, although nobody's going to live here either, but that's fun. And heading over to the pinkish country, they'll actually be creating a new colony over here in the Yucatan Peninsula. Don't know why I said that so weirdly, but here you go. Pretty big new colony. We're not going to bring them that much money, but it's nice. Going over to Spain then, they will also be creating a new colony. Denmark feels left out. And it's right over here in Colombia and Venezuela. So it's cool. They don't expand this one, they just leave it as it is actually. Well, they send people over from this side of Venezuela and colonize the other side, because they cross over from this point to this point. They realize it's connected. Well done. But Karnataka is the other country we need to go to, and they will actually be doing stuff. So, they might be important in the future. But what they're doing is going down here to just some islands. They own trade routes to the newly developing Tanzanian country. They discover the Seychelles, colonize those islands, and will also end up making themselves a colony right here off of the coast of Tanzania. We'll see if much happens with this in the future, but there you go. They've started their colonization of Africa. Nothing think anyone really minds at this point though. Like it's kind of it's kind of fine at this bit. Nobody really cares. There's no one there anyway. I think that's probably where we leave this at the moment. Let's go to our war and see if we have any time after that. So, muskets. Muskets are like very slightly important to this bit, but they have been developed. If you look at the power rankings at this point, we can see Central Asia is of course in first, followed by Hejaz. There's a big line between these two though. Hejaz is a lot stronger than Mesopotamia. Mesopotamia in third, Bulgaria, Korea. This should be like 1610 by the way. Denmark in 6th, Spain in 7th, Bengal in 8th, Greece in 9th, and Karnataka in 10th. So they have now made it to top 10 finally. Cool. But the Bulgarians recently developed muskets. Wasn't the Central Asians, wasn't the Hejaz people, wasn't the Mesopotamians. It was actually Bulgaria, and they've been exporting that to nearby countries like Greece and the other Balkan powers, and maybe even Croatia, but also to Hejaz. And how's Hejaz using their newly acquired muskets? Well, to force people to convert to a different religion. That's not right there. Different religion, of course. That's what I'd use it for. So Hejaz has been going around and threatening people with muskets. Because you can kind of survive a sword wound. Well, it depends. Not very easily, but muskets people are very scared of. And they don't want to fight. So, when Hejaz comes around with a musket and threatens you with it, lots of people end up converting. Especially in the Sinai area and also some more deserty stuff that nobody really lives in. They've already converted quite a lot of territory, even around here. And there's people all the way in like Tanzania and southern Ethiopia who've converted to Hejaz religion. And up here, I did also update this map, so that's fun. It's also disgusting. This color is just not good for the region. Anyway, I was going to give them some backlash. And the main country who gives backlash is... Wait, do you have... Oh, you do, that's cool. Is of course the this country. The Indigo Omani country will declare war on Hejaz. The beef is that deep that they decide, no, we can't let this country exist, and they'll declare war. This is a pretty big surprise invasion, and they do very well in this war. They take one major city very quickly and expand across their full border. They send people out towards capturing this major city, eventually taking it, how they do not connect with the coast of the Red Sea. They move out towards this major city, but then they're stopped. What are they stopped by? Hejaz. Now something interesting to note is that Hejaz has muskets, and you do not have muskets. Muskets are kind of like the new big thing. They've only just been developed like 5 years ago, so there's really not that many in the world. However, Oman, they're not doing too well against that. They've got like bows and arrows, but there's not quite enough. So the Hejaz people push back from the city and also start invading into the bigger populated areas in the south, taking this major city and working along the Omani coast, taking another here in Yemen. So not Omani coast. They don't really care about this front, nobody really minds about that, but they push towards these two major cities, which are both very big. Well, together it's a big economic hub. Just as one city, they're not very strong because look at their location. There is nothing going on here. But Hejaz moves in across the western areas, and they try to launch a pincer thing at this area, but then something surprising happens. And it's not something you want to happen if you're Hejaz, and it is the declaration of war from the Egyptians, and also the Ethiopian sort of guys, North Ethiopians. They will declare war. Together, these two countries work together to declare war on Hejaz. This is how threatening the existence of Hejaz is. And these countries actually have some reasonable military successes. The pink team frees up the area around the capital city. They do not connect the coastline anymore. How they free up this bit, which is pretty big. And the Asmara sort of area country. Actually, wait a minute. Isn't Asmara the capital of Eritrea? What am I thinking of? That ethnic group in this area. Whatever, like... I had it. Never mind. It looks really weird. Anyway, they take over this bit. However, Hejaz has diverted some of their troops from this front. They just gave up on the second spearhead. Why bother with the second spearhead if you can take the two cities you just won? They divert some troops from here. They don't care enough about defending that, and will instead send them over to the Green Country. Now, the Green Country, they're not going to receive muskets in like 1,000 years. I don't think anyone really has this country as a major trade partner because it's just not that strong. So Hejaz sends... Oh my god, you can't really see the color at all. That sounds a bit better. They send the troops out, quickly taking one major city, but also pushing really far along the coast, getting to the second biggest city up here. They take these random islands, and then finally take the city, and the push into this country is crazy. Their military is not very advanced, they've literally no naval assets, and their capital city is captured very quickly, so that's the end of their war effort. They also lose another major city, and now the Egyptians are very scared, because Egypt has also had their front line be getting upset up here in the north. They push over towards the capital city, and these two areas fall back to try and defend the capital. And to be fair, they do a pretty good job at defending the capital. There's a siege that goes on for quite a long time in order to defend the capital city. However, yeah, that ends, and the capital city of the Egyptian nation is captured. Unfortunately, the Egyptian sort of like pseudo ally in the Carthaginian Empire does not exist anymore. Well, they're just kind of far off. They're not going to be able to help with this war very much. They can send donations, maybe like volunteer troops. Hejaz makes a second landing, which is pretty impressive in this time frame. Over here, like a naval landing across this entire body of water here in Egypt, and they send troops up, of course, from Eritrea to go help out. Then we can spearhead towards this random city in the desert. What is going on in this city, by the way? But the fighting over here in the Nile is very tricky. Lots of like naval defenses for the Egyptian country. They've got their navy sorted out, and they push into the Egyptian country. You know, it's tough, but they do manage to do it pretty efficiently, taking the entire coastline of this country. They push into the Eritrean nation, just kind of stops because they don't need to do much. Over here, back at home then, Oman has made a pretty good job at pushing into some desert. Good job for them, there's just a wasted troops to occupy it, whilst the Hejaz country has finally surrounded these two major cities, not taking it. I was going to say taking maybe like suburban areas, but like suburbs of this, not suburban. Well, maybe. But yeah, it doesn't really exist at this time frame. 1600s, maybe. It started getting suburbs, maybe like surrounding towns. However, these two cities are getting closed in on, and the purple country is very, very afraid. This other city in the south is very threatened as well, and they're going to be fully surrounded before they're taken through like naval stuff. Anyway, who is Hejaz's biggest rival? If you had to guess, who would you say is their biggest rival? I think I know who I would say. And that country has decided that enough is enough. And as Hejaz sends a huge load of their military in to invade this country, the red team joins the war. They have stood on the sidelines and they've endorsed the actions of Hejaz. Well, not endorsed, but they've allowed the actions of Hejaz to go unstopped. You know, they've taken and accepted land from them, but the red team will not allow this to go on anymore. They have a massive population. They are within the top 3 countries, and they occupy a city very quickly down here. They also protect this other city in Israelstein and send this city across the northern area of the Suez Canal. This might be the Dead Sea, I think. So they take over that and push fully across this border, which is very impressive. However, what is going on? Hello? Hello? Why? Okay, thank you. Sorry. Surprisingly, Pink.net actually glitched out. I don't even know it could do that. Hejaz has come up with a new military strategy, and that is Blitzkrieg. So they send their entire... Oh no. Already got Blitzkrieg? Uh oh. Yeah, so they send their entire... Not entire, but a huge load of the military, diverting it from this front, round here to invade towards this sea, and it goes very well. The Persians, who have been very neutral at this point, will start sending forces to Hejaz as they see we're not willing to risk their stuff at this point. Like, risk their very diminished military, or very injured economy in fighting the red team, but they hope that if Hejaz can bring the red team to its knees, the Persians might be able to restore their lost empire. Anyway, the Oman managed to push back the offensive near this due to the Blitzkrieg tactics up here. They're not quite the same, but they're kind of similar, so that's nice. However, Egypt is still absolutely collapsing, with most of the country completely destroyed at this point. So this is kind of what the Egyptian front looks like. No, there you go, that's right. The red team is suffering a bit as this area is connected up. Over here, they did not think the Hejaz nation was capable of such an offensive, how the red team will attempt to push back, taking over these areas and pushing into these more deserty bits. They get close to the sort of Kuwait ocean access bit, and it's kind of scaring Persia because they want to join this war, but they haven't, so sorry for wasting your time. Oman pushes in further into the desert, which doesn't really matter, but there used to be a country over here. It was very in favor of the Hejaz religion, which now exists. But now troops that don't need to be used to defend these areas are being sent back down, and they are sending them into this country. Once again, they surround these two cities, but the front line over here in Oman is sort of stabilizing. There's not that much going on. Troops are arriving from Africa, but they're just being sent to this front line where they die, because the Red Team's military is stronger than Hejaz predicted. The people here are quite nationalistic again. Their empire is back, and they need to stop this evil religion, which is kind of, well, it is very much based on their religion, but it's a type of their religion they don't like. If the Protestants and Catholics can fight, these two guys definitely can. Anyway, how do we... What is going on? Yeah, I told you my throat is really destroyed. I don't know what sort of illness I've got, but it's not fun. How does the Hejaz take out Oman? Because they can defeat Oman. They can easily win this. Probably. They've got everything else sorted. Well, oh well, there's a little country down here in the eastern province of real-life Saudi Arabia. Why don't we just invade through them? That's basically the same color. Why don't we just invade through them, says Hejaz. So they go do that. They send their forces in, taking over Bahrain and the capital city very quickly. They don't really care about the coast, that's not what they need, but they push down, taking this beach city and separating the country into two. Omani forces will be sent in to occupy these regions, and they do that pretty well, as they just move in, occupying this stuff, but the Hejaz military is faster, and they will occupy the rest of the country, except for this bit, which is holding out over here with Omani supplies, but the main problem is that Hejaz is now pushing in right here in the north, and they have managed to sever this control. Lots of troops are sent over here, and then behind these front lines, and without Oman's knowledge, yeah, Hejaz was invading their front line over here. So everything just goes very badly for this country. A spearhead is made towards this city, it's completely captured, and Oman just pulls back because there's not much point holding that land. They even completely abandon the blue country and their occupation of that territory. This bit just holds out that some military people stuck there. They're obviously not going to surrender if they don't have to. But the worst bit is that these two major cities are captured, and this one is also. So, how are we going to stop Hejaz? What is there that can possibly destroy this nation? Well, it would be Hejaz, of course. Rebellions in Hejaz start to pop up as people in the Green Country and the other occupied areas like in Turkey. Turkey? This is not Turkey. Egypt start to rise up in favor of unification with countries or also new countries. And yeah, it's going to kind of destabilize it, but muskets. These people don't have guns. However, it does improve the Egyptian front line, but this might not be the thing that stops them. They managed to push back in these two major cities and take this one, but it's not going to be the end of the Hejaz Empire. They are still gaining land over here in Oman, there we go, got it. But however, pockets of rebellion rise up in the Green Country in favor of recreating their country. So this war's kind of ending. Let's go somewhere else, shall we? Let's go to the Holy Roman Empire. What's going on over here? Well, the Holy Roman Empire, which is of course Denmark, this country, and this country. Wow, Denmark, Eastern Germany, Slovakia, and Poland is what I meant to say. They are all loading their ships up here in Frisia, probably like this city maybe. They are loading their people up and they're sending them. I mean, Denmark has a lot of people, and they are sending them all over here through the English Channel, so maybe they're going to invade like France or something. Yeah, cool. Let's send them past the English Channel into the Bay of Biscay. Are they still invading France? No, past that. Past the coast of Portugal. That's the right way, a minute. And they go through the Strait of Gibraltar. And I think you maybe have the right idea of what they're doing, as the Holy Roman Empire military lands its forces right over here in the northern areas of the Hejaz Empire. This as a massive surprise to Hejaz. They were not expecting the Holy Roman Empire to intervene in this war. How the Holy Roman Empire does just that, taking over quite a few territories very quickly. Their military is very powerful, and they have lots of strategies that Hejaz has never been faced with. So they have a pretty good start. I mean, this land isn't land the Holy Roman Empire, Holy Polish Empire will be familiar with. However, they're very adaptable, and they manage to understand how to fight this land very quickly. Also, just loot stuff. These people will have muskets because they're close to the Bulgarian nation, and they start to invade the Nile very quickly. My throat is so destroyed. I need more water. Well, I don't even need water. I should really croaky. Alright, so sorry. There we go, it's better now. Well, not really. The Asmarans, whatever this group are called, managed to retake their capital city and push back over here. The rebels rise up in honor of recreating their country again. How they do not capture the coast. Nationalism starts to rise in Oman, and they push back this entire front line. Hejaz is not doing well against the millions of people, well, not millions, but maybe like a few 100,000 people who are invading the north, maybe 100,000. Conscription starts, and many of the people who are conscripted are people who are religiously against the ideas of Hejaz because they obviously didn't join the first wave of like enlistment, I suppose. Oman does a very good job of pushing back, and they even managed to push back up here in the north, retaking this major city and also retaking this one. The eastern province country will take back most of the country except these eastern areas, ironically. And the red team will be helped out by the force of this nation as they push back around here, taking back most of these major cities, including this one in Kuwait, but not this one in the southern area. Bahrain is also recaptured, of course, but there's a big military holdout there. And yeah, Oman should finally be able to push back Hejaz in this territory. There we go. And this tiny bit right here. The Egyptians are getting a lot of help. Ending the occupation of their own country. There was like a puppet government put in control for a little bit. There was a theocracy, of course. The people down here in the south also helped the Egyptians to regain control. But they do not capture a lot of their coastal areas. But they push up, retaking their capital city. Not actually through their military, but through rebellions. And here this is how the front lines look. Finally, we see the Libyan nation join the war. I think that's all the countries who bought it out except for Ethiopia. They've joined. What the hell? That's literally the same color. They joined the war. That's not very helpful. They join the war and take over these two major cities very quickly. They've of course got help from their Bulgarian and Greek allies, and that makes this country very powerful. They get volunteer troops from those two European nations, and they do extremely well at pushing through. Another nation who's doing very well is the Holy Polish Empire, which are just united under one for the purpose of this thing, and they approach the capital of the Hejaz country. The red team men will just do amazing work at pushing into these central regions, taking these major cities around here. As you can see, it's kind of become more of a race. Oh my. Yeah, they occupied their own country. More of a race to gain territory from this now, as the red team reoccupies all of this land, and the eastern province country takes over this western province of their country. Oman manages to push the red team fully out of their country, and with Omani troops approaching the Red Sea, this is going to help out in weakening the forces of the Hejaz nation around here in the Red Sea as they have to retreat to help out this front. That is a different color. There you go. And this means that finally the greenish Eritrean sort of country will manage to recapture all of their occupied land, and they can actually start a counteroffensive into Hejaz. So there you go, they retake that bit in Djibouti. The pinkish Egyptian country will retake all this land, and including this chunk down here, and these two northern areas, which just random people holding out in those bits. The Holy Polish Empire manages to get its navy on logs, carry them across the area where the Suez Canal would be. I think that's something that's possible, surely. And they just get them into the Red Sea. So now the Holy Polish Empire have their navy in the Red Sea, and they do some crazy stuff with it. They could just hijack things. If you want more story, they just hijack boats. and they managed to take a lot of these major cities, and it's pretty crazy, really, what they managed to do, connecting up with the board of the red team. The red team then decides to just neglect all this stuff, and they send their forces down, spearheading towards the capital of the Hejaz country, before finally, after a very brutal battle, taking the capital and the surrounding territories. So there you go. Hejaz has been taken down to just these remaining areas. The Eastern Province country, which is what that Saudi Arabian province is called. I'm not just forgetting it. Sends in their military, occupying a little desert, which is why they've occupied so much. And yeah, Oman takes over the remainder, and now Hejaz has been fully partitioned. I might just go back a second. So there you go. We had another episode of the Major War in it. Oh my, I like those episodes. Wait, why can't I just do that? They're kind of fun. What is going on? There we go. Okay, don't worry about that. These episodes are quite fun, big war sort of thing. Quite an interesting sort of idea. And the world at this point now has all these occupation zones, including one by the Northern Europeans. So if you enjoyed today's episode, please like and subscribe, comment changes you want to see in the future, and yeah, thanks for watching. See you again in the next episode. Goodbye.